Professional wrestling is the one true sport. Other sports have their share of intense, dramatic moments, but nothing can compare with professional wrestling. Welcome to Wrestling History X, where three friends come together to talk about the stories behind the matches. I'm Matt.
I've got Slim Jim breath.
I'm just a nasty boy living in a lonely world.
You hit a note there.
Welcome to episode 152, Slamboree 1995.
A Legends Reunion.
Yes, Legends. It's our favorite.
Can't wait.
I mean, we've seen more laborious Legends reunions.
Yes.
So, there's that.
There is that.
There's thankfully only one Legends match instead of the 3 or 4 that we've seen on previous shows.
I think we got 3 the first year, 2 the second year, and now we've hit 1 this
Maybe
year.
they're starting to notice that.
I feel like that the other ones were all just Tommy Rich versus X, and Tommy Rich was just basically doing his like roll thing, and then like looking very loose.
Wildfire.
Oh, wildfire!
It's either that or they don't have any legends that can still go.
Yeah. That wildfire has been put down by torrential rainpour at this point. It's just smoldering.
But this was the 3rd annual Slamboree produced by WCW. It took place on May 21st, 1995 at the Bayfront Arena in St. Petersburg, Florida, with an attendance of 7,000 people.
I graduated high school that weekend.
Woo! Woo! Adult shame.
Yeah.
But we are in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah, we are.
So what kind of thing did you bring us this week?
Well, we're in Florida. We're in St. Petersburg, and it's not a huge town to where it has the list of signature beverages and sandwiches.
It's
and
not
whatnot.
Tampa. It's not Miami.
Yes. And it is a WCW show. So I figured, let's have something to drink.
It's like, WCW show can't hurt to add alcohol.
Exactly.
Especially in
Definitely not.
1995.
Unfortunately, I believe I chose something that Matthew is not a big fan of.
I mean, it was beer.
Yeah, it's beer.
Matt doesn't like beer.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I figured I would see what the most popular beer in Florida is, and it is served up in a nice green bottle, white label, with some red and gold. It
makes me want to chip a golf ball just looking at it.
Is it the douchiest of douche beers, or?
I think maybe it was at one point. I don't know what that would be now.
Yeah.
I think maybe like a
PBR now.
Michelob Ultra.
There you go. Now White Claw.
Yeah.
But yes, for this one, we went with the
drink.
most popular beer in Florida, which is the Stella Artois.
Yeah.
It is a premium lager. That's about all I know about it, other than Matt took a sip and then picked up his bottle and carried it into the kitchen and came back with a little peanut butter and jelly sandwich to rid his mouth of the taste.
I like it. I don't drink these kinds of beers regularly, but it tastes like similar to a Heineken or a Moosehead. It's a skunky, what people called a skunky beer back in the day. I don't think people drink these shits anymore, but I'm quite enjoying it in a maybe nostalgic way.
Exactly. It's, a legend.
It's a legend of a beer.
It's a legendary beer, like in a world
It's a reunion.
Yes, exactly. In a world pre-craft beer, like Stella Artois was like nice.
Yes.
And now it's like, oh, you spent extra money on a Budweiser?
In a craft-free world, there was Stella.
Yeah.
There you go. But something that would happen right around the same time as Slamboree 95, Braveheart would be released the next week into theaters.
Ooh.
As I was reading this on the notes, I was like, Man, Braveheart, what a huge movie. You know what? Braveheart was a watershed movie in the same way like that The Matrix was. I think Braveheart was the Matrix of like 95, where it was parodied so much, and then there was so many more, not necessarily sword and sorcery, but like those like knight type of movies that we're still getting today.
Oh, yeah.
But like I feel like this was the first one that like really hit hard enough to where we continued to get them. So that was just a thought I had, and some people might not agree, but I feel like it kind of shakes out.
Oh yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to see it. I didn't see it until after it was released on video, and
I feel like that's when it really came alive too.
Oh yeah, I was working at Blockbuster when it came out on video, and
double VHS.
Yes, I hated those damn things.
Yeah,
they were the worst.
Mm-hmm. And this became a total like cable HBO classic for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody ever would have predicted Mel Gibson to, direct and win an Oscar for any movie, really.
This movie won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Makeup, and Sound Effects Editing.
Yep.
You know what? I do not agree with a lot of the things that Mel Gibson has said. I don't believe that he agrees with a lot of the things that he's said when in the last handful of years with controversy surrounding The Human. But I love Mel Gibson. I love the movies he's directed. I think Apocalypto is a masterpiece that nobody talks about enough.
Yeah.
And he continues to act in movies that people don't see and does a great job. But at one point, he was our biggest star.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
And this is one of the things, like, we had Lethal Weapon, but then this guy comes out and is like, makes a movie that's for everybody, but also, like, it's for everybody to where it plays in a home that doesn't watch the Oscars and also plays in a home of people that have like more snooty film tastes.
Yes.
And it just like it's just a watershed moment.
Yeah.
I was just looking over the Best Picture nominees from that year.
Let's hear 'em.
It was. Let me see if I can remember some of them. We had.
It's a very eclectic group.
I'm interested.
I don't remember if The Usual Suspects was nominated for Best Picture.
It was not.
Yeah.
That's a crime.
Neither was Leaving Las Vegas.
I haven't seen it.
We had Mr. Holland's Opus.
Nope.
Oh, that
that's
movie
the next
stinks.
year.
No, it was because Dreyfuss was nominated for Best Actor this year.
Okay. Who do we
It
have
was
this year?
Sense and Sensibility,
That's right.
Il Postino, the Postman.
Yeah.
Oh, I never saw The Postman. But that's Kevin Costner, baby?
No.
Oh, sorry.
This one was an Italian.
It was an Italian
Okay, I'm
film.
thinking of that weird Kevin Costner movie.
Yeah,
Sorry.
different one, The Postman.
Babe.
Ah, that's
Babe
right.
is an incredible movie.
And Apollo 13.
It is an
Also-
and Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Correct.
Apollo 13, great movie. Babe, I can't believe it was up for Best Picture. That rules.
Exactly.
But, I mean, I can believe it because the movie legitimately is that good. But to tie it back to Mel Gibson, Babe is directed. It's not directed by George Miller, but George Miller headed the project, got it put into production, and basically like was so involved with it that the director.
Chris Noonan
was pretty pissed off because George Miller's like, well, why didn't you just fucking direct it? Because he wanted to, essentially, because it was his idea. He read the book because his kid had it. And he was like, I'll make it.
He wrote the screenplay. Noonan did.
But George Miller is why Mel Gibson kind of became Mel Gibson, because he put him in Mad Max and Road Warrior and Thunderdome. And you want to see a really weird filmography, look up George Miller's filmography. It's very good.
It is very weird
and very good.
Very good.
Yeah. He made Lorenzo's Oil and Babe 2. He came back and directed Babe 2, Pig in the City. One of the most unhinged and enjoyable movies I've ever seen. It's incredibly weird.
Yeah, this was the year of the Oscars where the independents were getting ready to really move in, because the next year was when you had like Shine and Sling Blade and Fargo.
Yeah,
really
basically this movie kind of this year kind of skips the like Pulp Fiction assance almost.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, everybody had to take a year off or whatever to catch up and be actually influenced by that, because movies take so long to make with post production and all that. And it's like, oh well, next year when like the Coens come on the scene and stuff, it's like, oh, like here's this new wave of American cinema.
I mean, there was a lot of good movies this year, or that year, because I mean, you had The Usual Suspects, you had Dead Man Walking, you had Leaving Las Vegas, Mr. Holland's Opus.
Which Mr. Holland's Opus makes me cry every time.
I saw it in the theater with my grandma, and I don't know that I've seen it since then. I remember the kid being deaf, and I haven't seen it since.
Bridges of Madison County.
Oh, some Clint.
Casino.
Casino.
That's right.
Casino is just as good as Goodfellas.
12 Monkeys.
Just put it on
Rob
tape.
Roy. Nixon.
Primal Fear.
I miss when you could have
Toy Story. Toy Story comes out later this year in '95.
I have a very vivid memory of waiting in a line completely wrapped around a standalone theater to go see.
Comes out in '95. I think it's
Toy Story.
No, it came out in '95, in fall of '95.
Are you sure? Because I thought it was after.
Well, I mean,
it was after 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It came out in the fall of '95.
Aren't the 95 Oscars basically 94 movies?
The 95 Oscars is for 94 movies, but this is the
okay. Yeah, I got you.
96 Oscars
for
looking back to
yeah. I got it. Jurassic Park is 95 too, right?
94.
No, it was 94.
Oh, okay.
7 was a 95 movie.
Yep.
Right.
So I remember going in. I went with my nephew, and he's 4 years younger than me, and like you need to have an adult. Like I'm 18 years old.
I say this all the time, but like in like '98, one of the highest grossing movies in the United States was As Good as It Gets. That'll never happen again and hasn't happened since. With the exception of like Mamma Mia, but that's like a really bizarre happening. Now
and something had to try and take down.
That's never going to happen again. As Good as It Gets put on like Netflix and nobody watches it. And Netflix says that everybody on the planet watched it twice because they're bullshit. Anyway,
95, good year for movies, y'all.
Yeah, a bunch of Braveheart ass.
Fighting for freedom.
That'll do, pig.
That'll do.
I mean, that line.
I quote that line all the time.
I mean, that line delivery is so. That movie, seriously, guys, it's so good.
I mean, I worked at Blockbuster, so that was one of the ones that was constantly on repeat.
Yeah,
in the little kids' corner.
Holds up so well.
I wanted to hear it.
Funny fact: E.G. Daily, the voice of Tommy Pickles, does the voice of Babe in the first Babe movie. In the second movie, I can't remember the name of the person, but the voice that does Chucky in the Rugrats does the voice of Babe in Babe 2 Pig in the City. Weird fun fact.
E.G. Daily.
E.G. Daily of Pee-wee's Big Adventure fame.
Yeah.
And she also had, like, I think, at least put out, like, one pop album. She tried to do, like, a little Madonna thing at one point. A little Madonna tippy thing.
Phoebe's singing partner back in the Friends days. She's trying to remember what movie it is, but she's like a
Valley
pop
Girl.
star.
She's in Valley Girl.
She's singing in some dance scene in like a classic 80s movie, like Pretty in Pink or something like that.
Okay. I know she's in Valley Girl. She's one of the friends in Valley Girl.
Yeah.
But she's a very distinctive looking person as well, so if you see her, you know her.
There needs to be more of her.
Old Egg Daily.
That's right.
Well, let's move on to Slamboree. We get highlights of the superstars of yesterday, the megastars of today, and the legends of tomorrow are shown with narration before the logo comes on the screen.
Some of those legends still wrestling today.
Is that why Sting is a legend of tomorrow in this? Because he's still wrestling today?
He had some time off, which was scary when he came back, because I was like, didn't Seth Rollins break your back not too long ago?
I just thought that was funny because he's supposed to be probably your
homegrown star,
and he's a legend of tomorrow, and he's been a champion multiple times. I'm like,
I know Sting
been in your company for 7 years now.
More than that. I guess 7 years. But holy shit, we'll talk about Sting.
87 was the first class champion.
First?
So.
Okay.
I don't want to even.
8 years.
I don't want to get started yet, but we'll talk about Sting throughout this show.
Yeah. Eric Bischoff welcomes us to the show. He is stepping in for Tony Schiavone, who was out having neck surgery.
He gets slammed by...
Like Bobby loses his neck brace a few episodes ago.
Passes it on to Tony.
Yep. Tony picks it up.
But Eric is joined by Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mean Gene Okerlund. And Mean Gene brings up that a match has been added as during Main Event, the show that usually precedes the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Road Warrior Hawk had shown up and attacked Meng.
Bum, bum, bum.
So we're going to get that match later tonight.
You know why?
Because payday.
Because Hawk just went to Korea with them because they wanted Hawk.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, we're gonna if you're gonna do that, I need more than one payday.
Footage of that attack is shown before previewing the rest of the card. Bischoff then sends us to a video package about Harlem Heat, which is basically just a promo saying they're gonna win again in front of highlights of their matches.
Yeah, that video package was pretty terrible looking. It looked very cheap. And something that was meant for main event, or, it didn't look pay-per-view quality.
I love that, we just watched a WWF show, and we've had this, Jarrett-Razor big, long feud that has, some weight to it, and pretty solid matches, and pretty solid storytelling. Then we have, Harlem Heat versus the Nasty Boys just over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know what the story is outside of
watch us play hot potato.
Watch us play hot potato.
That's basically the story.
And the thing is
there's a belt.
They can do.
And we have 2 tag teams.
They can do better than that. They have Sherri there.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. That was the other thing is
let her think
watch
something
us
up.
Beat up Sherri. How are we gonna do it this week?
Mm-hmm. Let her jump off of something. That's great, but I don't know. It feels a little stale.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the other thing doesn't feel that stale. I was excited to see Jarrett and Razor again.
So we get our first match. The Nasty Boys of Jerry Sags and Brian Knobbs versus Harlem Heat of Stevie Ray and Booker T with Sister Sherri for the WCW World Tag Team Championships.
And one of these things is kind of similar to the other in the Razor and Jarrett feud.
Oh, okay.
About what we're about to get is a little different.
A little bit. So Sags comes out alone.
Lonely world.
And they tell us that Knobbs was injured earlier on main event. But they never talk about how it was the Blue Bloods that had done it as the reason.
They want to put the Blue Bloods over?
I guess not. So.
Who are the Blue Bloods? Oh, I know. We'll find out later.
We'll find out later.
Sorry, I was like, wait, why such a bad name? And I'm like, oh, I know who it is. Because I was very surprised.
So Harlem Heat stall for what seems like forever, just talking to each other, before Sags turns Booker inside out with a clothesline. Hits some turnbuckle smashes, followed by another clothesline in the corner. Stevie Ray jumps in to attack, but Jerry cuts it off, hitting a double DDT on Harlem Heat, before knocking Sherri off the apron. Stevie Ray goes out to check on Sherri, while Sags continues the punishment on Booker T with a pump handle slam for a 2 count.
Just for you, Michael.
I love it. Happy to see it. Starting hot.
Booker with an eye rake to slow the momentum, allowing Harlem Heat to double team Jerry. Stevie coming in with an elbow drop, tries for a second, only for Sags to move. Jerry hits a headbutt to the gut of Stevie Ray, followed by a leg drop to the same area, making a cover, but Booker T breaks it up. Sags continues with a body slam and heads up top, coming off with a double elbow drop, only for the cover to be broken up once again by Booker. Jerry makes another cover, but this time Sherri pulls him off and out to the floor, where he stalks after her, which leads to a stomping from Stevie Ray back in the ring. Sags rolls out to regroup, only for Sherri to be right there with multiple slaps.
Get him, Sherri.
Back in the ring, Booker takes over with a leaping forearm, a knee drop, and begins to work the neck of Jerry. Booker T then misses an elbow drop, but does the spin-a-rooney and catches Sags with a jumping hook kick. Stevie Ray's back in to keep up the attack, hitting a drop kick and a backbreaker, before Booker T comes in off the top with a flipping leg drop.
I mean, this is already better than most of the nasty matches we've watched, nasty Heat matches we've watched recently.
Yeah.
There's a little bit something else going on, and it's good. And the Harlem Heat is playing to the crowd and getting heat, and the crowd's into it. It's not a fake popcorn match that involves ices and stuff.
Stevie then climbs to the first rope, coming off for a leg drop, but he doesn't get enough air, so he lands on his feet to save himself from tripping, and then delivers the leg drop.
Stevie Ray. He's kind of a little bit better than Sid without the promo.
Booker telegraphs a back body drop, allowing Jerry to hit a desperation pile driver. And all of a sudden, Brian Knobbs is running to the ring with his ribs taped up, allowing Sags to crawl over to the corner to make the hot tag. Brian with clotheslines, body slams, back elbows to both members of Harlem Heat, a bulldog to Booker T, that before backdropping a charging Stevie Ray over the ropes to the floor.
I mean, it's a good hot tag.
Sherri climbs up to the top rope, coming off, but she is caught by Knobbs, who power slams her down, followed by picking her up and tossing her out onto Stevie.
And almost missing Stevie.
Holy shit, he really
flat on the ground.
launched her. He was feeling the energy. I was like, oh my god. Sister Sherri, always a highlight.
Yeah, always there to make everybody else look good by having to recover from the shit that they put her through.
She's seriously one of the most, like, I feel like, underrated. I mean, I don't even know if she's underrated, but she's never disappoints.
Brian then picks up Booker for a running power slam, followed by Sags coming in off the top rope with an elbow drop for the pin and the win. And new
again.
Post-match, as the Nasty celebrate, we see a shot of the Blue Bloods looking disgusted in the aisleway, as only Sir William Regal and Earl Robert Eaton can do.
Yeah.
I mean,
watching Earl Robert Eaton trying to do his best William Regal with his hand behind his back looking...
You know, it took me a second,
confused.
As a beautiful Bobby fan, it took me a second to even recognize him, because he is thick. Yeah. Bobby got...
little
chonky.
Yep.
And he was never the most... Him and Stan Lane. It's like, well, Stan Lane is the body guy. We know that.
Yeah.
Bobby Eaton's one of the greatest right hands you can have, but he is never the star, and we know why, and he doesn't have to be the star. He's just one of the best guys to wrestle. But I was like, who's that guy? And I should never have to look at Bobby Eaton and be like, who's that guy? Because I love Bobby Eaton. And I was like, I had to rewind it and be like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And I was excited, but
definitely
kind of...
had gained a lot more face than the last time we saw him.
Yeah, kind of flabbergasted. Maybe it was the first time he put a suit on and just pushed his neck into his face. I don't know.
So when the Blue Bloods came out, my first thought was, is the best part of this is that the Nasty Boys and Harlem Heat feud is over with?
Could be. And honestly, the Nasties got over in a big way here.
But I hate to tell you this.
It's not?
It might not be.
Okay.
I don't know for certain.
All right.
But Harlem Heat had technically already won the belts back at a massive TV taping earlier in the month.
Oh,
Why
my
they keep
gosh.
doing those massive TV tapings?
I mean, they got a studio, right? Studio stuff. I mean...
Saves money.
I get it, but good lord.
They got all... they're spending Hogan money and Hogan Buddy money. Now they got... Macho Man they got for a deal because of the Slim Jim.
So I legitimately looked it up, and, like, we know Harlem Heat as one of, like, now, as Harlem Heat is one of the most prolific WCW tag teams of all time. I think they actually have the belt more times than any other team ever.
Yeah.
Well, they do that smart thing of never leaving and having somebody as good as Booker T.
But I think out of
like their first 8 during the first 6 months.
Well, I think they were only 8-time champions.
I can't remember. I was guessing like
but
10 or 12.
We, as a group, because since we really just watch pay-per-views, we only see like 2 of their title wins because all the other ones are all on TV.
Yeah, so somebody can get their win back on a bigger pay-per-view.
Yeah. So I think I just find it hilarious.
It is very funny, yeah. It's like, oh, like they're the solid tag team hand, but never the one that's put over.
WCW tag team, they're one of the first teams that you think of.
Yeah, because like I don't think Road Warriors with that because Road Warriors are pre-WCW. It's NWA, JCP. But I think, like, some of the ones that I think, like, Doom, but that's, like, at the precipice changing. I think of the Steiners, but we know the Steiners basically fuck off to Japan for half a decade almost, right?
Yeah.
And good for them, because it's kind of slim pickings for them over here. I mean, I'd love to see them work with, like, Heat or the Nasties, but they got bigger fish to fry and bigger paydays overseas.
We then go to the stage, and Eric Bischoff is there with the Nasty Boys. And they say they did it nasty style before talking about the Blue Bloods, saying they are now in their targets.
Yeah. Nasty sensation.
I love that Jerry
Nasty
Sag says
size.
that when the Nasties take a licking, the Nasties take a licking and keep on kicking. Like, gross. Ew. Yuck.
We then go to the back, and Mean Gene is there with Kevin Sullivan.
Who's not afraid?
And Kevin keeps asking Okerlund if he is cold, while saying both the name, the man with no name, and the butcher, because it's the same person.
I mean, he hasn't slept in 5 days.
Saying the problem with the man with no name
The
is
butcher.
he still believes in Hulkamania.
I mean,
And he
I
just
don't-
keeps walking around. Like, the promo was so weird.
Well, the
It was very
thing that I
weird.
thought was funny was Mean Gene, like, no, not through there. That's the men's room. It's like, oh, cool. So Mean Gene doing his interviews live from in front of the men's room.
Yeah, this entire segment was just weird.
Kevin Sullivan has a hard time putting it together, I would say. I don't know. I've never been impressed by Sullivan, and I know that people say he has a good mind for the business, but I've never seen it in any of his matches.
Maybe
So
he just really
gives
wants
us
to
good
be a
ideas
face
away.
so he can be back around
Literally,
his brother
the
again.
only thing good I ever remember about Kevin Sullivan is his 7-match series with Benoit. And wonder why.
Yeah, because there's some real heat.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we head to our second match.
It's a grudge match.
And this is how they announced him. The man with no name, formerly known as the Butcher, versus Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what is he, fucking Prince?
No, he's Prince again
He's
now.
not cool. Like, the Butcher's not cool.
I think that's kind of what they were...
Prince is
Didn't
cool.
Prince do this
Well,
right
he
around
went...
95?
I'm trying to
I'd
remember
say
when it
so.
exactly was, but yeah, they made
That
a
was
joke
all
about
contract
Prince, so
stuff, though.
I think, yeah, was going for the little symbol thing already.
But I think
Possibly.
that's what they were... That's technically
Yeah.
what they were...
Not the right guy to do that
They've
with.
got
No.
that then, and then, a couple years later, then they've got the artist formerly known as Prince Iakea, or whatever his name is, Taff Cappy.
Yeah.
Weird. That's all
Yeah.
we're gonna
Yeah,
say here.
I
It's
mean-
weird. It's weird for.
It's Brutus,
Butch.
what do you expect? Or,
It's
sorry,
weird for.
Brudai, or the man with no name, or formerly known as the Butcher. Or,
Soon to be known as... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Soon to be known as Who Cares.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love if he came out and he's like, I am Who Cares. And everybody goes, Who Cares?
He might actually get the biggest cheers of his career.
Yeah, and then he goes, I care. And then he, like, does a power move on somebody and pins him.
That's actually not a horrible gimmick.
It's a pretty good gimmick, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should start juicing. Become Who Cares.
So the man with no name attacks Sullivan immediately, hitting a high knee to the back, sending Kevin out to the floor for some guardrail action. Back in the ring,
Railed. Sorry.
Back in the ring, the man with no name continues with mounted punches, multiple turnbuckle smashes, and chokes to set up the sleeper. But Sullivan counters with a jawbreaker to escape.
Weak jawbreaker.
Kevin tosses the man with no name out to the floor where the two men trade chops before heading back to the ring. And the two men continue to brawl when the man with no name hits a pile driver for the pin. And no, we're not that lucky. Back out to the floor for more brawling. Then back into the ring for more brawling. When the man with no name misses a corner charge, hitting his forehead on the ring post.
Oh, no.
Sullivan seizes the moment, placing the man with no name in a tree of woe.
Whoa.
Running into him with his knee, followed by a double stomp for the pin and the win.
I love the running knee plus double stomp as a finish.
Yeah.
I am a big, Kevin Sullivan probably is the best at doing the tree of woe. And it makes no sense. their legs are just wrapped around the ropes.
Yeah.
Just unwrap your legs.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You're fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can
But it's
unwrap
one of
them
those
with
moves
ease
that
as soon
I
as they
really
get
like.
kicked.
Yeah. It's an important part of wrestling. There's a really great line where Eric Bischoff says, "You know what they say when you cut a snake's head off?" And Bobby Heenan replies, "Yeah, it becomes a belt." And I was like, oh, Bobby. So good.
Post-match, someone on the Turnertron begins talking, causing Kevin to go out into the crowd. The man on the screen tells Sullivan to come forth, my son.
My son.
But Kevin heads out one of the exits.
Yeah,
in the arena.
He goes full John Moxley into the crowd. This guy looks cool though. It's like this weird icy like filter,
Cobwebs.
and he has like but he has like weird a mix of like Muta and like Sub-Zero vibe.
With a little bit of Jabba.
Yeah, he's got like a Muta today, more of a Muta today look. You know, chubbier face and goatee.
Assassin number 2, maskless, or whatever that his name was.
Are you talking about Mr. Wrestling 2, where he's got the mask where his face is busting out?
Yeah, the big face dude with the teeny tiny type mask.
I think that's Mr. Wrestling.
No, that was
2.
Assassin.
That's Assassin? Okay.
That was Assassin number 1.
Okay.
So the man on the screen was King Curtis Iakea,
Okay.
who is a professional wrestling and Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Famer. He would become known in WCW as the master of the Dungeon of Doom.
Dungeon of Doom. I can't wait for...
So this is the beginning of that storyline.
Spoiler alert, but I can't wait for old John Tenta Earthquake to come back as a shark, because that's a really cool singlet. But that's the only reason. I think the singlet's funny.
I'm a shark!
I'm a shark.
So we go to the back. Mean Gene is there with Jimmy Hart, Hulk Hogan, and Randy Savage.
Is he talking today?
We're a bit late, brother. We were at the beach.
They say a bunch of words, but really it comes down to Randy's just happy for his dad going into the Hall of Fame tonight.
Aww.
And no one realizes the power of the Monster Maniacs.
God, that name is horrible.
The Monster Maniacs. And this is where I pulled my Slim Jim breath thing. They said a bunch of stuff, but that one stuck with me because Randy's in his classic like Slim Jim gear kind of for the first time. And to look behind the scenes, the Slim Jim deal was a big reason why he went to WCW and why WCW could afford him at the time, because they didn't have, like, he was getting like, you know, $250,000 a year with his Slim Jim deal. And so he didn't require as much of a payday from wrestling. And on top of that, WCW gets Randy Savage on their roster, plus these extremely popular Slim Jim commercials, which everybody knows who Randy Savage is.
WCW could have just called him up and been like, we're going to let you wrestle.
Yes,
and he
exactly.
would have come.
Exactly.
WWF wasn't.
Yeah, they were. I'm sure they were paying him, but they weren't paying him Randy Savage money because it didn't really require it because he had such a good, you know, deal, and it's a twofer for WCW for sure.
We then go to Angelo Papa saying he is ecstatic about being inducted into the Hall of Fame and watching his son wrestle tonight.
Aww.
What a good dad.
Right.
So we're headed to our third match. Dirty Dick Murdoch versus Chief Wahoo McDaniel in a Legends match.
Don't adjust the settings on your TV, everybody.
No.
This match is in black and white.
It is in
We're
black.
going back to Kansas.
Gives it more of a nostalgic feel.
It does. I think that it's kind of cool and good. And I think this match is kind of cool and okay.
We also get Gordon Solie taking over play-by-play for Eric Bischoff for this match.
It seems like they're actually kind of doing it right for this Legends thing almost.
Or at least trying to.
They're trying.
So the last time we saw Murdoch was at the Royal Rumble 95, episode 141. And Wahoo at Slamboree 93, episode 90. So this is our second Wahoo Legends match, basically.
I mean, Wahoo is famous for wrestling beyond his years consistently.
Yes.
He's that guy that just partied on the mid-card longer than anybody ever expected.
So McDaniel hits multiple arm drags, but Dirty Dick comes back with a knee to the gut and starts delivering some elbows. Wahoo then hits some chops to stop that momentum, but the two men then just start trading elbows and chops until McDaniel drives Dirty Dick back.
With another chop.
Wahoo with an overhead wrist lock, only for Murdoch to back him into a corner to cheap shot him. They begin trading blows with the chops again prevailing, but Dirty Dick fights back with another knee and elbows. Murdoch hits a knee drop bulldog off the top rope, followed by a back elbow and an elbow drop for a 2 count.
Knee drop bulldog. Nice. Especially with these two beefy guys. It really does look good.
Wahoo then reverses a whip and catches Dirty Dick with a massive chop.
Wahoo!
For the pin and the win.
That last massive chop busts his nose right open. I rewound it a few times. I was like, wait, where did he get blood? And it's that, like, I think maybe a chop or something not right, like right before that. So he was probably, his nose was probably already hit pretty good. But that last chop, like, really just shook the blood around in his head. And he was just, yeah, it was a good look for the last move. Very nice.
Especially in black and white.
Oh, yeah. It looked extra cool that way.
But you can say goodbye to both of these gentlemen, as this will be the last time we see either of them.
Oh, well, goodbye. I think that they went out on a solid dad match and with a little bit of blood. This kind of had, it was in black and white, but if it was like
I was in Pleasantville.
Oh, for me, it felt like it was I was in Raging Bull. Less stylized, of course, because that's a movie and they can do tricks and stuff. But yeah, that was my thought. It's like, oh, these two old mean men.
Yeah. Well, I will say, Dirty Dick, he was meant for black and white TV.
Oh yeah.
He actually just had
Looks
this
great.
like regal, badass look to him, as opposed to seeing him not too long ago at the Rumble, where he just looked like an old man running down to the ring.
Yeah, in black and white, he has like a distinguished kind of like almost like Walter-esque vibe. You know what I mean?
It makes him look very youthful. Yeah.
It shaves off a few years.
Yeah.
And a couple of pounds. I should be seen in black
It's
and
a
white.
good filter.
We go to the back. Mean Gene is there with Big Bubba Rogers.
Yay.
And Big Bubba says he is one of the few men that has beaten Sting. And tonight, after I beat you again, it will be the end of you.
He's going to run him out of the WCW.
Can it be officially the end of Big Bubba versus Sting, or a combination of Big Bubba fighting Sting in tag matches? 'Cause
I mean,
I'm over it. I'd rather watch the Nasty Boys and Harlem Heat fight again and again and again and
really?
again. And again.
I don't know if I agree.
I don't know about that one.
I'm just sick. I'm sick of Big Bubba and Sting.
I
need some new blood.
a little bit more high on the artist formerly known as the Guardian Angel, since he became the artist formerly known as the Guardian Angel. Because that's a gimmick I could not get behind.
No. And that's partially why I despise seeing him on the TV. Like, we've seen you guys fight seen you guys fight numerous times with him being too many different characters. Give us somebody fresh.
Well, how about our fourth match? The Great Muta
There's fresh.
versus Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
I mean, I was pants down
Yeah, I was
for
gonna
this.
say,
I was so not ready
Hands
for
on the
this.
table, Michael.
I mean, I was so excited. And you guys had to have been as well, right?
Yeah, I didn't know these two ever fought each other, so.
And this match is for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
My hands are up.
You
I
got
promise.
Orndorff going for a belt? Hell yeah.
I know, dude. And it's Orndorff. Great worker, great heel. And then Muta, who still has fans, even though basically just doing a cup of coffee in like 89 and showing up once a year in WCW.
Yeah.
People were still behind Muta. Paula chants that are still happening since like 1983 when it was still WWF or whatever, like from Madison Garden shows. Love this. Absolutely love this.
Muta gets a pretty cool drum intro and pyro.
Yeah, he's got the big like shiny black cowl on over his face.
But he does come out first. Foreshadowing. And the last time we saw Muta was at the G1 Climax 94. episode 126. And Muta had defeated Shinya Hashimoto for the title earlier in the month at Wrestling Dontaku.
Oh, not...
And unfortunately, that was one of the shows that I really tried to get. Could never find a good copy of it anywhere.
And I'm crying over here because it was a Shinya Hashimoto match I didn't get to watch.
There was also a Flair and Hase match on that show as well.
Sounds good.
So
that's what a
like,
good
it was literally a show that
combo.
I really wanted to try and find. And
Hase and Flair
find a good copy of it.
is the kind of thing that is like potentially trilogy deserving, because if they have a chemistry, it can be good.
Wiped from existence because of WCW going to Korea or whatever, and they didn't want to.
Eric Bischoff
them being shown anywhere else in that time frame.
During these intros, Eric Bischoff talks about how they were just in North Korea. I assume Muta was probably there, and I don't know if Paul went over, but I mean, it seemed like a lot of guys went over. If Too Cold Scorpio went over
to Korea or to Japan?
No, to Korea, because this is right after.
Flair is the only WCW contracted worker that worked that show.
Oh, okay. So Muta could have gone over, because like Hawk and Too Cold went over. I know that for sure, but they weren't contracted. Okay.
Just fought on a bus.
Which, by the way, we'll cover that show in a few weeks.
Oh, really? You have tape of it?
Yeah, we have tape of it.
Of the Korea show? I didn't know there was a good tape of it. I'm excited.
I don't know if it's a good tape,
but it's tape.
But we have it.
I mean, it's legendary enough to be worth watching. It's still the highest attended, maybe by force, wrestling show of all time. But, you know, I don't want to say too many negative things about North Korea. They could be one of our listeners.
Could be.
Could be.
Hey, if you are, invite your friends to listen.
Yeah, you got a lot of them.
Ask the president to force everyone.
Yes.
We'll get that sponsorship. So.
Hell yes.
Sponsored by North Korea.
Oh. I mean, if WWF's going over to Saudi Arabia, we can take some North Korea money. I'm just saying. At least there's only 3 of us, and if I make that much money, I promise I'll give back to the community.
I'm just gonna drink my beer.
So the match gets going with Orndorff stalling, arguing with the ref before a feeling out process between the two men. When Muta puts Mr. Wonderful out to the floor with a jumping back kick. Back in the ring, we get some mat wrestling with Orndorff escaping a headlock into a hammerlock before delivering a knee to the gut and a clothesline. Mr. Wonderful misses an elbow drop, allowing Muta to hit a drop kick and the flash elbow drop before going into a head scissor that Mr. Wonderful counters to deliver a back suplex. Bischoff and Heenan start talking about how Ric Flair has been reinstated to the active roster because Hulk and Savage wanted to get their hands on him.
Bischoff, Heenan, we got Muta and Wonderful in the ring right now. Can you not talk about Hulk for a few things?
Yeah, this is already starting off full Japanese style because Paul Orndorff can actually do it because he's a fucking professional. We're getting a wrestling match right now? Can we not talk about Hogan?
Orndorff dumps Muta out to the floor, where he starts choking the champ with a camera cable, before bringing him back into the ring with a vertical suplex and a shimmy-aided elbow drop.
Gonna get fines and suspensions.
Hell yeah, choke his ass.
Mr. Wonderful applies a chin lock, only for Muta to fight his way out, but whiffs on a drop kick, allowing Orndorff to grab a front headlock, which the champ escapes with an atomic drop and a clothesline.
I love him whiffing it because Paul Orndorff has the smarts to grab the ring and knows Muta's a drop kicking son of a bitch.
Muta hits a second rope elbow drop, which I think Mr. Wonderful was supposed to move on as he takes control of the match with forearms and goes for a pile driver. But Muta then counters with a backdrop and another jumping back kick. We get the handspring back elbow in the corner and a bulldog by Muta for a 2 count. Following it up with a backbreaker and a moonsault for the pin and the win.
What a good, solid wrestling match. It's very G1-esque.
Warms your heart.
Warms the cockles of my heart to see WCW have a good wrestling match on their show because we've seen so many so inconsistently.
Bischoff then sends us to a video package about Arn Anderson and Alex Wright. We get highlights of the Enforcer beating up people and being TV champion, followed by Alex Wright taking it to Arn at a TV taping. We then go to the back with Mean Gene, who's with Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Vader. And Arn calls himself Mr. Anderson.
I know.
Anderson.
I popped for that as a huge fan of The Matrix. I was like, Mr. Anderson.
As
So fun.
people should show him respect.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Nature Boy and Vader then talk down to the Hulkster and Macho Man. And then we get a video of Terry Funk saying he's not sure he's a legend, bringing up the names of greats throughout history, but it's an honor to be recognized in the Hall of Fame.
Name drops Hackenschmidt, Gotch, Fez, O'Connor, Briscoe, and even Harley Race. It's like he's just Terry Funk. He's a man of humility, who never quite appreciates himself as much as we appreciate him, which makes sense considering his protege, like essentially being Mick Foley, who's another man who is very selfless.
Yeah. So we get our fifth match: Das Wunderkind, Alex Wright versus the Enforcer, Arn Anderson, for the WCW World Television Championship.
With a 30-minute time limit, Alex Wright is so hot.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fucking good-looking guy.
He's a pretty boy. Got them dance moves.
And you know what?
Or that one dance move.
Yeah. The club, early techno dance.
Yeah. Midway backstroke.
Yes.
Something. I don't know.
Very good. The other thing I noticed is the poster for this show has Alex Wright's name on it. It's like, oh, they're behind Alex Wright. His name's on the poster.
They are behind him, definitely.
For good reason. Look at this guy. He's like, what if Sting was taller and sexier and was more agile? Fuck.
So the match gets going, and Wright takes Arn down with an arm drag before applying a headlock, which Anderson escapes, only to receive a drop kick and back to the headlock.
That's Mr. Anderson.
When Double A escapes again, Alex delivers an enziguri. The Enforcer is placed back into a headlock, but he's given another drop kick after he escapes. Arn tries for an enziguri of his own, only for Wright to duck and apply an STF. But Anderson makes the ropes to break the hold.
Yeah, he doesn't quite lock in the STF on the head, so Anderson can get out. If he got it on completely, I'd be kind of annoyed that Arn got out, even though I'm an Arn fan.
Alex baseball slides Double A out to the floor, following out with a pescado that isn't very pretty, and starts beating on the Enforcer, only for Arn to knee him and try for a clothesline. But Wright moves, sending Anderson into the ring post.
Posted.
Back in the ring, Alex begins to work the arm with a hammerlock, but Double A backs him into the corner to escape. The two men begin trading blows until Wright starts running the ropes, only to be caught with a spine buster. The Enforcer puts the boots to Alex, catapulting him into the bottom rope, using multiple chokes, only to be kicked off into the corner during a figure four attempt. Wright begins to fire up as he catches Arn coming off the second rope in the gut, delivers a spinning wheel kick and a vertical suplex before heading up top for a missile drop kick for a near fall.
That missile drop kick, Alex Wright's a tall guy. He jumps up high enough to... Missile is the right word, because it's coming straight down. It's not vertical at all. It's almost it's almost a double stomp to his chin from an
Absolutely
45-degree angle. It looks incredible.
The two men trade inside cradles for several 2 counts before Anderson sends Alex to a corner. He charges in, but he's rebuffed multiple times by elbows and knees. Wright then charges out with a clothesline that Double A ducks. He fakes a left jab, which causes Alex to duck, allowing the Enforcer to hit a DDT for the pin and the win. This would be Wright's first televised loss.
I know, and I love that Alex gets put over and like that Arn doesn't get a whole lot in, but it's the way that the stuff Arn gets in is all due to being older and wiser.
Mm-hmm.
So the win, I don't think really takes a whole lot away from Alex. And yeah, I just thought it was really smartly worked and put together, but it's fucking Arn Anderson. And like Alex Wright can be very impressive, but he's kind of like a deer who hasn't quite got his feet under him. And you can kind of see that in his choices to go to mat wrestling in between his big moves and stuff, where he can't quite chain it all together.
And see, I thought it was a nice little twist that a few shows ago we had Paul Roma get fired because he wanted to teach this new guy a lesson because he didn't think he was ready, whatever. And yeah, then you've got a couple shows later at this one where Alex gets his first loss to Arn Anderson, and had Paul Roma just been a company player and just went with how things were supposed to go, he probably might still have a job.
And Arn gave him everything. But Arn's also a much better wrestler and smarter man than Paul Roma. Definitely. But yeah, Arn Anderson gives Alex everything. Like he's working. Arn Anderson is the heel and working from underneath the whole time. Yeah. Babyfaces work from underneath.
But I will also say thank you to Paul Roma, because had he not been fired, we may not have had Muta versus Mr. Wonderful.
Maybe not. So. Yeah. And I like Paul Roma, but not in the same way that I like Arn Anderson. That's a silly thing to say.
Absolutely. We then get Eric and the Brain talking the main event. And basically the only reason I mention this is because Heenan says one of my favorite lines, that security had to stop Hogan, Macho, and Renegade from escaping out the windows. Because they're scared.
Yeah, if you can fit Hulk Hogan through a window, through a bathroom window.
Yeah, right.
My God.
Can't even get his ego.
His ego probably won't fit out the window.
Are they still trying to sell Renegade as the Warrior?
Yes.
Because it's so crazy. He's obviously dressed like him. He's obviously jacked, but not the same kind of jacked. And they never put the camera quite on him, and his hair is obviously like feathered to the front, and he keeps his head down too. And it's just really silly because like,
it's like when they replaced Becky on Roseanne and expected people not to notice.
Yeah, it's.
But then they just made a running joke of it afterwards.
Yeah, it's just funny because
they say he's the same, but he's not the same.
it's just funny because like I know that video quality is not as high as it is now here, but what we're watching isn't that much higher quality than it was on television at the time. It's not like this is like a 2K or even 4K like, you know, tape, because this is all on like tape, and yeah, it's very funny.
Yep.
This is not film. This is tape to like live.
So we're headed to our sixth match. Meng with Colonel Robert Parker versus Road Warrior Hawk. It's the first time we've seen Hawk since Battle 7, back in episode 140. And the match gets going. Meng is chopping away, laying it in with right hands and headbutts to start, before hitting a clothesline and a pile driver, which Hawk no-sells.
No-selling a pile driver.
Road Warrior then hits a reverse neckbreaker, which Meng no-sells. Hawk tosses Meng to the corner, following in after, only for Meng to move, sending Road Warrior shoulder first into the ring post and down to the floor.
Posted.
Parker gets involved with some stomps before Hawk is run into another ring post.
Posted.
First. Once back in the ring, Meng continues the punishment with a backbreaker for a 2 count, but Hawk begins to fire up with multiple boots, only for a Meng throat thrust to stop the momentum.
Still kind of crazy. I was like, oh shit, like the Road Warriors are known for just beasting people, and like Meng is getting more offense than Hawk. Hawk's still like strong and no-selling, but like not completely no-selling. He's no-selling big moves, but he's, you know, it's piling up.
Road Warrior finally catches a kick and delivers a clothesline before hitting a jumping shoulder block and a jumping fist drop for a near fall. Hawk heads up top, coming off with a splash only for Meng to avoid, sending Road Warrior out to the floor to regroup. Meng follows out where the two men brawl all around ringside when the bell rings for a double countout.
Ding, 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 ding. I mean, Road Warrior is still going to go back to Japan. And he'll take the beating and make Meng look strong, but he's not going to take a pin here.
No, definitely not.
No.
And why would they have Meng take a pin? Meng hasn't had a whole lot of matches. Plus, he's fucking Meng. Like, he's been around forever, and he's good. And he could probably... I believe that he could have kicked Hawk's ass in real life.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about that.
Post-match officials and other wrestlers come out to separate the two men. And they don't do a really great job at first.
They're big guys.
They finally settle it down.
They get to the point where I thought that maybe it was a shoot. Like, honestly. But then I was like, oh, no, it's not because of the body language and stuff. But with the, like, fact that they weren't able to break them up very well, I had that thought and feeling for a second. And then I was like, oh, no, these guys don't look angry.
Bischoff and Bobby start talking the Hall of Fame. The Brain complaining that he hasn't been inducted. Which,
I mean...
I completely agree.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. No, yeah, Bobby, you should be in every Hall of Fame twice.
That's right.
Eric then sends it to the stage for our Hall of Fame induction. And Gordon Solie is at the podium saying there are 6 inductees this year.
I know, but the crowd's so loud and not attentive that I found it so disrespectful.
First up is Chief Wahoo McDaniel. And Solie tells a funny story about him being injured before football training camp as Wahoo would wrestle in the off-season. I was like, that's a laugh riot there, Gordon.
Yeah, it's like, it's not funny. It's kind of crazy that he was playing professional football, which obviously didn't pay then what it does now. And he was obviously playing much before 1995. Yeah. But him working wrestling, it's like, nowadays, if you were on a football contract, they're not going to let you do that.
No. Unless you're Lawrence Taylor. We then get highlight photos of him as Gordon continues to name the accomplishments of McDaniel.
Played football in Dallas, in New York, in Miami.
He's from Oklahoma University, though.
He
First
is.
and foremost.
Yep.
That's where he hails from.
Did it say Oklahoma University or did it say University of Oklahoma?
I think it said Oklahoma University.
That sounds about right, but people get it wrong. I mean, they don't know how to say their initials either. So.
Yeah. No. The AWA, NWA, 7-time tag.
Each person's given a trophy and then able to deliver a short speech, and Wahoo thanks some people.
Yeah, the trophy is very bizarre looking, but kind of cooler than most trophies.
And I appreciate Wahoo's short, simple, thanks, bye.
Yeah, thanks to fans. You got to.
Next up is Terry Funk, and Solie points out that Terry is still extremely active in wrestling.
Oh, we know.
Wink, wink.
Saying he won the world title with the best inside cradle he had ever seen. More highlights before Funk gives his speech where he gives a, "Hi, Mom."
Oh, yeah. So cute.
Always wanted to be one of those people.
Yeah. He beat the he beat Jack Briscoe for that title as well. Which is nothing to shake a stick at.
And he ends his speech with, "God bless wrestling."
I agree, Terry.
So kind of you. Next is Angelo Paffa, and his speech is basically him cheering his son on in the main event.
Proud of Papa.
Now, some real life stuff here. Gordon actually had issue with Paffa being inducted, but Macho Man more or less demanded it as for him coming over to WCW.
Yeah, I mean, the reason being is that the Paffos kind of ran like what would have been considered an like outlaw promotion back in the day. They weren't up to snuff with the way that wrestling was run back in the day. They were, technically a shady promotion.
But they would use this as an angle in the future. So we'll have that to look forward to. Antonio Inoki is our next inductee. And Solie says his life reflects brilliance and mentions his career in wrestling and also in politics.
He just recently wrestled in North Korea.
That's right. Inoki gives a speech through an interpreter, and he basically, it's a great honor to be inducted. Always wanted to promote peace throughout the world.
Yeah, because he's a part of, I don't remember what they call it. It's basically the Japanese Senate. He's a politician. Antonio Inoki. Like, in a world where we make so many biopics for so long.
Where's our Inoki pick?
I know, man. Or at least a really good documentary. We might have to wait for his death, which I don't wish upon anybody, of course, for that to happen. But I think that the world deserves a well-produced look into the life of Antonio Inoki.
Next is Big John Studd. And Studd had passed away a few months earlier from cancer. So
sad.
Gordon brings up the feud that he had with Andre the Giant before Studd's son Robert came out to accept the award. And I was actually kind of surprised that he gave a speech. I was just like, totally figured, here you go, son.
Yep.
And then just move him on the way.
I wonder if he ever became anything in wrestling.
I don't think he went into wrestling.
He's a little guy. It's funny because Big John Studd here is billed at 6'10", like 365, and I'm like, was Big John Studd really that big?
He was a
He's
big
a
dude.
big motherfucker.
I was expecting them to make a cracker or something like that about his son, you know, how he's looks like he's 12 or 13, whatever, but he was actually a 7-year-old or something like that.
And last up is Dusty Rhodes.
The American Dream, baby.
So he recalls the son of a plumber and a story about the American Dream.
Taking ditches at 8 years old.
Dusty would then come out with a young Cody Rhodes at his side.
Just a little baby.
Yeah, and their sister, I don't remember her name.
Taryn?
Something like that. I don't know, Dusty said something about, I want to thank my 2 kids, and he said Cody and her name, and then he said, and Christy, and
He says the natural. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think I made a mistake and said the wrong number, so I better just name them all.
Rhodes thanks his family, says that it's the blood, sweat, and tears of the men up here that laid the foundation for this sport. Dusty then backs away from the mic to give it back to Gordon, when all of a sudden he comes back to inform everyone that there's one more inductee tonight. Gordon Solie.
Oh, and this is where I cry my eyes out.
Right?
Oh
Solie
my god.
Did the same.
Shell
was
shocked.
looking around, all confused.
Oh my god.
He legitimately had no clue.
You can tell by his face.
They
That's
were
why.
doing this.
That's why it worked so well on me, because I was like, I can see Gordon's face, which is not the most animated face. Gordon Solie is a very solid, stoic man, and here he is like fighting back tears and legitimately like bewildered. And I was just like, my heart can't take it.
Yeah, to put a modern comparison to it, when Edge made his re-debut at the Rumble a couple years ago, and that expression he had on his face when he heard the fans for, you know, the first time in all those years on his way down, just that, oh my god, what is happening? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gordon had that just
He didn't quite realize,
priceless look.
yeah, how much he was appreciated.
I mean, they give him the mic to give a speech, and he's practically
can't find
speechless.
Yeah, it melts my fucking heart. I loved it so
As
much.
you guys have said, this was a very cool moment, and will be the last one we have of Sully, this is the last time we will ever see him.
I mean, a hell of a way to go out, and such a beautiful moment for Dusty to do it is huge, and for Gordon to be here, for him to call a match with the black and white, which is kind of added to it. We talked about how that match was kind of better than most of the Legends matches. It was quick and to the point. It was big guys hitting each other hard, and Gordon calling it like only Gordon can. And then, yeah.
Suplex will always be in my
Yeah.
vocabulary.
Yeah. He cooked a suplex in my heart.
Gordon walked so JR could run.
So we go to the back, and Mean Gene's there with Sting. And Sting says that there is no chance we get a repeat of Uncensored. And as soon as he said that, I was like, but wait, that was the best match on that show. I'm okay with a repeat of that.
Yeah, he said this Scorpion Deathlock's going to happen tonight, and I'm like, great, it sounds good.
I hope so.
Yeah, if you tap out Big Bubba, then we're going to need a new opponent for you.
That's right. So we get our 7th match. Big Bubba Rogers versus Sting in a lights out match.
And you know what's crazy here?
What is crazy?
The Stinger runs out with a table over his head.
Mm-hmm.
He does
and
indeed.
I popped for it in a way I didn't expect to.
And lights out basically means anything goes.
It's an unsanctioned match. It is because the lights out thing is typically an unsanctioned thing, but I don't know.
Did you guys actually see them turn the lights out? I didn't.
I didn't. They just said it, I think, but it's a.
I mean, they mentioned it many
gimmick.
times that
Yeah.
the lights are going to go out, and when they come back on, this match will be unsanctioned. And I'm just like, so are you going to turn the lights? Are you going to turn the lights off?
My assumption is maybe they did it during the Sting
They do it
promo.
in AEW.
Yeah.
The couple lights out match they've had, they actually have done the lights out whole thing, and then they come back on. It's like, okay, well, this match is unsanctioned.
And I'm willing to believe that it obviously has been done previous to this. It's a famous trope from yesteryear. And
I remember the first time we had a lights out match. I think it was Great American Bash 85-ish. Something. It was a Dusty Rhodes match, but it was a lights out match, and we were all like, why is this the main event when the heavyweight? Because it was actually the last match on the card, and at that point we had no clue what a lights out match was. Plus it was in a stadium, so it was like, you're not turning the lights off.
Yeah.
And so we were like totally confused, but now that we
understand
it's like
part of the grand experiment
totally
of this show is that
totally makes more sense.
We're going through these big events to add context to ourselves and learn a little bit more about the thing we care about.
So the referee actually removes the table to ringside that Sting had carried out.
So anything doesn't go.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's doing his job, but he's not going to DQ him for it.
The two men have a woo-off when the Stinger hits a drop kick to send Bubba to the floor.
I mean, the crowd's already hot, but it's fucking Sting.
Back in, Rogers rakes the eyes to gain control, delivering a clothesline into the corner. Choking Sting with his tie, but the Stinger powers out to drop kick Bubba once again. Rogers with a knee lift and some right hands, but Sting comes back with a clothesline before being dumped out to the floor, where Bubba follows out to set up the table. Rogers tries to smash the Stinger's face multiple times, but the brakes are put on, and Sting sends Bubba into it instead.
Yeah, because he set up the table, basically got like one leg up, so it was basically a bicycle ramp.
Rogers is body slammed onto the table, which is prone on the floor, followed by the Stinger setting the table up by tilting it up on one leg. Sting heads back towards Bubba when powder is thrown into his face, allowing Rogers to smash the Stinger's face on the table.
Dusted. That's what I'm going to say now when somebody throws powder in your face.
Rogers puts the table in the ring, where Nick Patrick helps him set it up,
I thought that was funny.
tilting it on a corner while Sting is rolled in. The Stinger's thrown into it before Bubba tries for a pile driver, only to be reversed into a back body drop. Sting then whips Rogers into the table, following after with a Stinger splash. But Bubba moves, sending Sting straight into the table.
And crowd's way behind Sting. They're doing a rope-a-dope right when they get behind Sting, and they're heavy for him. Bubba pulls something off. They've got a good vibe going here.
Rogers removes his belt and starts to whip the Stinger before hitting a boss man slam for the 2 count. Bubba climbs to the top rope, only for Sting to meet him up there to slam him off, followed by a body slam, and the Stinger heads up top himself for a splash to get a near fall. The two men start trading blows until Sting hits a clothesline and multiple right hands to knock Rogers down. The Stinger then places the table upside down on top of Bubba before delivering a double stomp,
Sick.
then applies the Scorpion Deathlock for the submission and the win. So maybe it is over.
I hope.
It's good.
I
I think
hope.
it was really good because
Bubba
the
gonna
crowd.
come back with a new name or a mask or something like that, so we can have another 6 matches between the two of them.
The crowd is super hot, and it's one of those things where everybody is so behind Sting for almost a decade at this point, And Sting has had the title for a cup of coffee 3 times. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, if it wasn't for Hogan, Sting should be on the top of the card. And here he is with like Big Bubba, where it's like, yeah, that's a fine feud for him to be doing in between like title runs or something. But, and I know Sting's not Ric Flair, but like people do really love him at this time. And I think he does deserve more than what he's been given. Granted, he has been given a lot, and he's made a lot of money, and he's made a huge impact. But it's just so weird to me. It's not weird because Hogan's there, but it doesn't feel right.
Know your worth, Sting. Know your worth.
Yeah. I mean, but Sting's also a company guy, too. Like, he never left. He's just, he's been there, and he's been a solid hand, and he does what they ask of him, and he feels kind of unappreciated. That being said, when Big Bubba starts hitting Sting with the belt, Bobby Heenan says, "This is what Sting's father should have done to him years ago. He'd be a better human being by now." And I thought that was some prime Bobby.
Eric then sends us to a video package for our main event.
I thought we just watched the main event.
I don't know.
We watched the main event.
Co-main event?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
We get highlights of the 4 legends that will be in the ring, plus all the other characters that will be at ringside.
Oh, you mean Renegade?
Yeah.
Because, the rest of them are legends. Even Jimmy Hart is a legend.
So we go to our 8th match. The Nature Boy, Ric Flair, and Vader with the Enforcer, Arn Anderson, versus the Monster Maniacs of Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan with Jimmy Hart. And Michael Buffer does the introductions, and let's get ready to
fumble!
Have a surprise debut?
Maybe?
So this is Flair's first match since Halloween Havoc 94, episode 132. He lost his... It was a career versus title match.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something I noticed that was very funny is the heels come out first of Flair, Vader, and Anderson. But Rick is the first one out. Like, it's Ric Flair and then the other guys. And then when the faces come out, they announce Hogan last. So it's like they give the biggest guy on the heel team the first introduction, and then Hogan still gets the last.
But didn't they only play Flair's music, and all 3 of them came out to just Flair's music?
They did, but he was the first name.
But they played his music, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
While
I guess that's
Savage
true.
and Hogan, they played each of their music separately.
Okay, I didn't quite notice that detail. That makes sense.
I know they played American Made as they first started down, but did they flip it into Savage?
Did they not play Pomp and Circus?
I don't think they did.
Oh.
That's why I just thought it was weird because it's like, the complete inverse, where it's like, this guy building up to Flair.
I hit the forward button after they started walking down, but I know I heard American Made as
maybe
they initially were walking.
Either way, it's just still kind of funny. It's like you should be building to Ric Flair instead of starting with Ric Flair and then ending with Hogan, which is maybe I'm just reading into it too much because I've got some hate in my heart. But I mean, we all have our flaws.
So as Hulk and Savage make their way down the aisle, a giant of a man comes out from behind the curtains, pointing at the champ. Who is he? Once everyone is in the ring, Renegade then comes running down to the ring to clear Nate and Vader out of the... So he gets his own separate entrance.
Old Rennie.
So you guys are actually probably right.
Yeah, well, that's
the Monster Maniacs came down together.
Renegade's music, when it hit, I swore it was the "I Want to Be a Hulkamaniac" or whatever that song, because it didn't sound like something mocking Warriors music or anything like that.
No, they didn't
I
do
heard
the,
kind of the.
But we're watching it on the network as well, so we're probably getting stock
music. Yeah, for sure. Who knows? They would have been really funny if they were just actually using Pile Driver 2 Warrior theme.
We see Angelo Poffo sitting in the front row to watch his son's match.
Look at Angelo
so
being a
proud.
stew.
And this is when I noticed like that. Oh, Renegade! They're still trying to put him over as Warrior because he's keeping his face covered, and the camera work is even deliberate, which is pretty surprising for a WCW show where the camera work is not quite as like crispy or calculated as WWF, which I appreciate, but they're being more calculated here. There's no referee.
So Vader overpowers Hogan to start, taking him to a corner to deliver some stiff shots. But a poke to the eyes allows Hulk to fight back with right hands and a clothesline, before a second clothesline sends Vader out to the floor, followed by Savage flying off the top with a double axe handle.
And the crowd goes wild. I love that the first time Hulk Hogan like takes it to Vader in the corner, Vader's mask just comes right off.
Oh yeah, I
just
watched
pulls,
him.
yeah, he pulls it
rip
right off. He just,
I'm
yeah,
like, what the hell's the point?
I guess,
But
yeah. I mean,
maybe Hogan doesn't know how to hit properly while he's wearing a mask, so he had to take it off so he could see exactly where his cheek is or ear.
yeah, maybe it was a request from Hogan. He's like, oh, Vader,
Hurt my hand.
or Vader's mask smells so bad, because there's a famous quote I love about Leon. He did not wash his gear, and Bret Hart said that it was like wrestling a concrete mixer full of vomit because Leon didn't smell very well.
Yum.
Back in the ring, Vader is being double teamed, but he changes the odds by hitting a double clothesline on the Maniacs. Vader dumps Macho Man out to the floor, where Flair starts stomping away on him, sending him into the crowd. Back in the ring, the Nature Boy keeps up the attack with chops, only for Savage to fight his way out to unload, before tossing Nate to the corner for a Flair flip onto the apron, where he's met by a big boot from Hogan.
I got scared. I'm always in fear of the Hogan big boot.
Don't fear the boot.
I don't. Yeah. Can we get the Blue Oyster Cult remix of that?
The Nature Boy Flair flops his way down the aisle, but he's rolled back into the ring by Hulk, where Macho Man hits a back body drop and a clothesline that sends Nate back out to the floor. We get back in the ring, and Flair wants a test of strength, but thumbs the eyes instead and starts to work over Savage.
Get him. Just get him.
Macho Man fights his way out to make a tag, where the Nature Boy starts delivering chops to Hogan's chest, only for them to be no-sold, forcing Nate to beg off.
Boo.
Hulk hits clotheslines and a back body drop, but Flair slows the momentum with an eye poke before heading up top, only to be press slammed off, followed by Hogan locking on a figure four.
Boo.
Vader distracts the ref, allowing Arn to run in, only to be cradled up by Hulk, who still had the figure four locked on.
It was an incredible and interesting spot, but so disrespectful and gross. It was gross. It was cool, but it wasn't cool because it was Hogan doing it. It was interestingly cool. Like, it was like, oh wow, that actually looks neat, but I couldn't hate it anymore. You know what I mean?
The ref finally turns and gets Anderson out of the ring, but Hogan grabs at him, allowing Flair to chop block the Hulkster from behind. Nature Boy starts working the knee with the running knee drop, and Vader starts wrenching on it as well. All of a sudden, Jimmy Hart turns his attention back towards the entryway, when that man is just standing there, cracking his knuckles, before disappearing behind the curtain once again.
Could it be the return of El Gigante?
Is it he? I hope not.
Has there been a man that tall?
Is it Andre's son?
No.
Could it possibly be?
Giant of a man. In the ring, Vader hits a vertical suplex, which is no-sold by the Hulkster. But he telegraphs a back body drop, so he receives a body avalanche. Savage runs in and slaps Vader in the back of the head, which seems like a really bad idea.
Yep.
So Vader tosses the ref out of the way to get at him, while Nate works over Hogan. Macho gets Pee-wee up to his feet so that he can clear Flair out of the ring, while Vader delivers an avalanche and Vader bombs on Hulk.
Yes.
Vader tries for a second one, but Hogan avoids, making his way to the corner for the hot tag. Savage pounds away on the Nature Boy, hitting a back body drop before delivering a shot to Vader on the apron, to knock him down before returning to Nate, only to run into a back elbow. Flair then heads up top, only to be press slammed off by Macho, followed by the flying elbow for the pin, and no! Arn pulls Savage out of the ring.
Good going, Mr.
While
Anderson.
Vader hits another body attack. Renegade then comes running around ringside to take care of Anderson, while Vader rolls Macho back into the ring for a running knee drop. Vader's then tagged in and hits the Vader Salt for the pin, and no! Hogan makes the save. The Nature Boy and Vader continue to control the action until Savage is able to fight his way out of the corner to make another hot tag. The Hulkster goes slam crazy, getting rid of Vader to the outside before hitting the big boot on Nate. Hogan goes for the leg drop, only for Double A to trip him up from the outside, allowing Vader to come back in and splash him, while Renegade chases Arn around ringside, followed by Flair making the cover, only for a near fall. And it's Hulk up time.
I know, I got kind of pumped for a second. Also, some of the best... Arn is so good at doing... It's a difference where when Ric Flair is trying to be a sneaky, like, begging heel, it's more, like, pathetic. Mm-hmm. But when Arn does it, it feels like he's actually scared. And you don't know if he is or if he isn't. But he does a really great job of it here because there's something about Arn going wide-eyed that's beautiful. And he does it really well here, and he does it for the Renegade, which is a shame, but it's what the match calls for.
Hulk no-selling, finger-wagging when Anderson gets on the apron to distract him.
Yes.
Allowing the Nature Boy to grab Hogan as Arn ascends to the top rope.
Yes, yes, yes.
Double A comes off, but Hulk moves, causing Nate to be nailed. Arn is then pulled out of the ring by Renegade, while Hogan hits the leg drop for the pin and the win. Post-match, the Maniacs are celebrating when the heels attack once again, with Flair pummeling Macho inside the ring. Angelo Poffo then leaps over the guardrail to save his son, only to receive a figure four for his troubles. Hulk and Renegade make their way back into the ring to make the save and clear it as Bischoff says his goodbyes and the credits roll.
But Macho is like, we need an ambulance. We need an ambulance. He's very upset about his father getting figure four.
Haven't seen him act like that since, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. Macho Man, really great. The camera does not really do him justice, but he is so over and doing such a good job here. And, like, Macho Man does what needs to be done, whether it makes sense or not. He went over the steel into the crowd. Mm-hmm. Hogan would have never, ever, ever done that. Macho Man is arguably just as famous at this point with the Slim Jim commercials and stuff. And this is one of the reasons that we look at him more favorably in hindsight. So I just wanted to bring attention to Macho Man being Macho Man and us loving Macho Man.
And our final note here, of course, the man who kept coming out from the curtain is the debuting Paul White.
Well, it's a big guy.
That's right. So I ask you, gentlemen, what are your overall thoughts of Slamboree 95?
It was not a chore. It was better than previous Slamborees. And it's just hard for this not to turn into a thing where it's like, ugh, Hogan. But I do think that the last match was very exciting and very, considering how long it was, there was always something happening in a way that didn't make me like, there was things I didn't like, obviously, but I think that for what it was better than I expected. Is that fair to say?
Interesting.
Is that fair to say?
I mean,
I don't like how it went down. I don't like...
Let's see what Shane has to say about this.
I mean, I will agree that it's better than some of the shit that they've made us watch recently. But there's not very many braggable moments on here.
No.
Like, we get to watch the Nasties and the Harlem Heat for the however many times.
Where Sherri's the star.
You get a boring ass No Name and Sullivan match.
Sullivan's double stomp I liked.
I mean, when my favorite 2 matches on a show are a Legends match and, of course, a Muta match.
I'm so glad you like the Legends match, okay.
Everything else, I guess, Alex Wright and Arn Anderson. Okay, so you had a couple of good spots in the middle, and then it just went back to blah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's for me, a mostly skippable show with the exception of a couple matches in the middle, and then the surprise shocking face of Gordon Soley when he is put into the Hall of Fame.
I mean, that's the real heart and soul of the show.
I could skip over this and not care.
I will agree with you in that this is not a must-watch show. I will agree with that completely.
I do think that this show is better than Uncensored.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's absolutely better than Uncensored.
But it's still very boring.
Mm-hmm.
I think with a main event like this, the show should have just been a Clash of the Champions.
Yep.
Good call. Good call. It could have been tightened up to where we get a Nasties Heat, a Wahoo, a Muta Orndorff, a Arn Alex, and then Sting Bubba and Hulk. And then you still and then if you do that, you have to I guess you have to get rid of Wahoo because Wahoo and Murdoch because
you
can't.
Like the Hall of Fame stuff
would
and
have
the
to
Legend
be,
stuff doesn't happen on a Clash of Champions.
Yeah, but I would have to take that match off of there. But
they one where it was a Legends deal and it was just
yes, they
boring
did.
As hell.
It was the one where
that was the anniversary show.
Yeah,
so they didn't have Legend.
That's when Sting shows up looking hot as hell on a motorcycle.
But they had all the Legends just doing
Backer Daddy Sting
promos. They didn't have a match.
But yeah, in that position, you take off the Wahoo Murdoch show, Murdoch match, and the Hall of Fame, and you have a tight 145 of a solid television show, a 2-hour TV show.
But it's not even a solid show because it's still.
And I mean, unfortunately,
matches.
Most
the ones I pull,
if
pick the
if
goodies.
this isn't a pay-per-view, the Muta Orndorff match doesn't happen.
Muta Orndorff,
and
best match on the show?
And Meng Hawk doesn't happen. So there's your 4 segments that don't happen.
I mean, Meng Hawk didn't need to happen anyway. They could have just done that on main event.
I mean, they should have just done it on main event and not brought it forward. But
yeah. I mean, but
Hawk, everything else,
Hawk in
gotta
Florida,
have your stud stable match.
But you're also you're in Florida, and Hawk in Florida.
He's from Indianapolis.
Yes, but no, they care because he was on top when Dusty was booking and they were doing the big tours and stuff. So there's more love for
but you're
Hawk
in Hogan
and
country where they're at here because it's close to Sarasota.
I feel like it's still Dusty country.
It's Hogan country.
It's Hogan country. That sucks. It should have been. It should still be Dusty country at this point in time. You would think.
Good. Where's the smart marks at? There. All right. Fuck you.
I think it's time we smark it up. So, what are some of the best moments of this show?
I think
1, 2, 3. Gordon Soley.
I mean, yes. That I have a huge heart for Sting coming out with a table, and then I think that the Sting Big Bubba match was good.
I mean, it wasn't as good as their Uncensored match. It wasn't bad.
No,
but it wasn't as good.
But
as
I think that
match.
Sting really brought it, and the crowd was super behind him, and I think his win was deserved and well played.
I mean, when they're on match number 14 in a 6-show series with just these two fighting again and again and again and again and again, I just can't get excited for it.
But I think that
their third time.
It seems like a lot more than that,
as
though.
Big Bubba, but then you had
They
Guardian
never matched up as Guardian Angel.
No,
I thought they had a 3 match with him and
They did,
Vader.
but Guardian Angel and Sting never faced each other.
Well, fine. I'm just anti Bubba. I've been bored with Bubba since he left the Twin Towers.
As much as we don't like the Man with No Name and Kevin Sullivan, I love the Tree of Woe, and so
the double stomp.
The finish of that match is.
I think the finish of that match is incredible. I think that it's very funny that this show kind of. There's 2 matches that basically get won with a double stomp because Sting does the double stomp on the table and then goes to the deathlock, but he could have easily done the stomp and then pinned him, and it would have been fine. But he said he was going to finish him with the deathlock, and it's his move, so he has to. This is not as good or as tight as In Your House.
Arn's DDT on Alex.
And the fact that the DDT was the finish, because it was a flash finish.
dirty looking DDT.
It looks, yeah, dirty in a good way, right?
No.
No?
No.
I think that's because Alex Wright is so tall.
I mean, it's very possible, but it didn't look good. Another best moment for me is they don't ever name Paul White. They don't ever say his name.
True.
No, he's the giant.
It's just this mysterious person.
Well, do they call him Paul White this early? Like, not this early, obviously, but like in the next time he shows up, do they?
Probably, because he's Paul White when.
Okay. I wasn't sure if he shows up as just the giant.
They call him
Paul White the Giant.
They call him the Giant Son. I mean,
yeah,
they try and play him off as Andre the Giant Son at first.
You know what's funny is like...
I couldn't remember if the Paul White name didn't hit until he showed up in WWF.
No, because he came in as the Big Show.
Yeah, he was the Big Show as soon as he walked into WWE. Or F. I mean, maybe the first night he walked in, he was Paul
Shane
White.
gave him the Big Show name.
Oh.
Like a year into his run.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
No, I believe you.
Paul White when he first showed up at...
I mean, they basically, I think,
and ripped the door off.
Maybe they don't call him Paul White. Maybe they just call him the Giant.
Yeah,
I feel like he's the Giant for a while.
He's just the Giant in WCW, and then he jumped over to WWF.
Because they do play him off as Andre the Giant's son.
Yeah, I know that for sure.
Then he became Paul White, or I shouldn't say became. They used his name, and then shortly after that, he got linked up with Shane McMahon, and that's when he became Big Show.
Ah, gotcha.
Supposedly, I think this is true, he has or was born with the same disease that Andre had, but it was able to be like reversed with a surgery because of just time.
Science.
And yeah, it's like, oh, and it's incredible, and that's great for him. Kind of a shame that, like, it's like that's just the way it is. You're born when you're born, and science and technology continue to move forward, but it's like, oh, poor fucking Andre, man. If we could have just, like, helped the guy out, but it just wasn't in the cards at the time. So... Because the Giant's still big. He's a big guy, but he's not Andre the Giant big. And that's obviously better for his health, and the man is, I assume, happy and healthy today.
How about most disappointing?
For me, the big thing was how over Sting was. I talked about it already, but like that Hogan not being here, Sting is more exciting and should be having a match with Vader or with Macho Man or with Ric Flair. And he has, I think, a good match with Big Bubba, but it's just a shame that they didn't actually... They use Sting, but they never bet on Sting. It's like they win a hand with Sting, but then they don't continue to bet on Sting. And they back off, and then they, win a hand with Sting and back off, and... It's just kind of frustrating because we've been doing it for so long. Because Sting came in being pushed and hot.
When the best match of the entire show, I find, is a clash of styles, and I don't think is a very good match. Because
which one?
Muta and Orndorff is the best match.
Okay. Yes, but
I don't think it's a very good match.
I think that it's okay. I think that my biggest issue with it is it doesn't build to the finish. The finish just happens. And they could have built to a finish.
I mean, that's what they do with every Japanese person that walks in.
You're absolutely correct.
In WCW is they're like, okay, go do your match, and then they're like, but you got to cut it off at 8 minutes instead of giving them 15.
15, yeah. It's like if it could have, where it ended, it should have built to another 3 minute, another 3 minutes of escalation and a pin.
Also Orndorff totally missed a spot.
He did.
So.
Yep.
But I mean, Orndorff hasn't worked Japan. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we love these Japanese wrestlers, but they don't translate
They work
here.
a different style.
Yeah, it doesn't translate over here. And
Orndorff's
the best guy for him to work with here.
I mean, there's
potentially
better guys, but
no, on this, who else on this card? I guess Steven Regal. Steven Regal, or maybe maybe Arn. I don't know, but
yeah. Either one of those guys, probably.
Yeah, but either way, I think that match is okay and so close to good. But maybe that's just my love for the two guys.
The constant manhandling of Sister Sherri
is
I know she's a badass, and I'm sure she could take it, but
She fell hard
I
so
mean,
many
if
times.
Stevie Ray catches her, then that doesn't look as bad as. I mean,
yeah,
Stevie Ray has to catch her. Obviously,
it just
you can't botch that.
But she has a couple of
horrible.
hard falls in that match.
I mean, but that's the
Splats.
stuff that she does, though.
It is. It's like she chose to do that. She knows what she's doing. She's a badass, and we love her for it. But it's just kind of one of those things.
She looks sexy
that's
as
like,
fuck while she's doing it too.
yeah, she's great.
That's one thing I'll give WCW. They played on the sister Sherri sex appeal and actually let her look as good as she looks while she's out there kicking ass instead of covering her constantly in face paint or weird costumes.
Yeah, but
You know,
sometimes
she's
she
done
looks
the
good
weird
with
face paint.
Yeah, Sherry's one of those people where like every other show, it's like, damn, Sherri looks good, and sometimes like, oh, Sherri just looks like my aunt, and then sometimes she looks great.
Whatever fucking WrestleMania it was. Yeah, I'm trying to remember when her and
Oh,
Macho went together. Was that before 6?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah,
cauldron.
we were talking about how she looked back then, and she looked good. Yeah, she was scary looking at times, but here we are, almost 6 years later, and she just keeps getting better and better. But ease up on the kicking her ass constantly, because I want her to stick around longer.
Remember the ECW promo with her and
Medusa?
and like, can we just get Sherri and Medusa match? We're never gonna get it, but don't you just want it?
What's with these gorgeous women?
Yeah,
Fucking
I want to
Kevin
see.
Sullivan
Yeah,
and Greg
Sherri
Valentine.
slam and leg drop and DDT Medusa so bad. I don't want to see Bull Nakano throw Sherri.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I'm scared of Bull Nakano and Sherri because Sherri's a little older.
How about best performer of the night? I mean, it's Gordon Soley, but
That's almost not even a performance.
because that moment's just
it's so genuine.
It's the only reason to even watch the show.
I agree.
Yep.
I think
just
that
that
Macho
moment.
does really well with what he has, even though he's not. The camera does him no justice, but I think that he brings it. He completely brings it, but he always brings it.
Brain has a good few few good
I was
lines
gonna
during
say
the
Bobby
show.
had some stuff in there.
And I think that Eric was better than I expected, considering.
If we say that if the DDT on Alex Wright was probably Wright's fault more than Arn's fault, then I'd say Arn was probably up there for me as well, because he does a good job in the main event.
He does a great job.
Of
I keep forgetting he's doing double duty on this
keeping
show.
things moving.
Yeah, he's
in-
there
in
when
spots.
he's right exactly where he needs to be when he needs to be there, whether or not it's going as planned. And I think that last match, even though it's complete like mayhem, I think that it moves better than
I mean, that's
expected.
WCW main events for us right now. It's
Yeah.
just complete mayhem.
Yeah, it's the Hogan mayhem.
Yeah. How about most surprising?
I didn't know
mean-
this is where the Giant was showing up.
Well, there's that.
Of course,
Muta and Orndorff having an IWGP
Yeah.
Heavyweight
Yes.
Championship match.
Didn't
I
know
was
that
just
was gonna
like,
be on.
I'll say it's a three
okay.
a threefer in that it's those two moments, and then of course we just talked about it. And the reason to watch the show, but the Gordon Soley moment is
I'll give you a
is
fourth moment. The Blue Buds. We haven't seen Eaton and Regal in a little while.
you know what I was surprised at? Bobby's chunky ass face. It must have been yeah. He must have doubled down at Thanksgiving 5 months before that or whatever. Crazy. But yeah, Bobby in a suit, very funny. Bobby with neck fat, very funny. Yeah, a thick old neck.
And now for a look back even further into the history of wrestling.
The dusty finish.
Hulk Hogan had won the WWF Championship from his fellow Mega Power at WrestleMania 5 and would proceed to hold it for the next year until at WrestleMania 6, the Ultimate Challenge was accepted. Ultimate Warrior, born 1959 in Indiana as the oldest of 5 children, he would begin competing in bodybuilder competitions where he would meet a group of men, including the man called Sting, who decided to form a professional wrestling team. They would make their debut in Memphis in 1985 under the guidance of Jerry Jarrett before moving to other territories. By 1987, Warrior had joined the WWF, where his high-energy ring entrances and face paint made him a fan favorite, which led to an Intercontinental Championship run after defeating the longest reign of honky-tonk man's with a 27-second squash match. He would feud with Rick Rude and Andre the Giant the rest of the year, but at the Royal Rumble 1990, the Ultimate Warrior would have a confrontation with the champion, Hulk Hogan. At WrestleMania 6 on April 1st, 1990, in Toronto, Canada, Warrior and Hogan would each pin the other while the ref was out, before it was Hulk up time. Hogan would hit the big boot and goes for the leg drop, only for the Ultimate Warrior to move out of the way. Warrior would then proceed to hit a splash to become the WWF champion. After the match, Hogan would show his respect before leaving. The Ultimate Warrior would defend his title successfully for the rest of 1990, but the real world would catch up with him as he would have to defend against the biggest heel America had ever known.
Bum, bum, bum. Remember that purple belt?
I missed that purple belt.
Purple belt's so good. Because it's like a weird lavender.
Yep.
It's not a deep purple.
It's beautiful.
It's so good.
I miss all those old belts where the Warrior decided just to
Change the color.
sprinkle a different color on it.
Yep. Was he the one that did the white Intercontinental?
Yep.
So good. Crazy that
White,
a guy that
yellow.
Yeah, they saw a guy that stinks so bad. I mean, granted, he was very over and had a great look and had some of the most incredible nonsensical promos.
That were so much fun.
Oh, so good. But yeah, for him to be able to have the foresight and influence to be like, I want a different piece of leather on this. And it looks so good.
Next week, barbed wire, hoodies, and choke slams.
Oh my.
Oh my God. That's the name of the show?
That is the name of the show.
I didn't even realize they called them hoodies back
Where are
then.
we going to be?
Motown Philly back again.
No. I asked.
You did ask for it.
Yeah.
Music from this week's show is Raise High the Roof by Jeff Rose and Richard John Parfit. And the Monster Maniacs won our main event. So we play American Made.
Cue
by Jimmy
American
Hart.
Made. I mean, that's what I always say when Hogan wins.
Damn it, Savage, why couldn't you have got the pin? I could have listened to at least your song.
They didn't play a song.
Yeah.
They only played,
I
we
know, that's what I'm
established
saying.
this.
If he would have got the pin, though, then we could have listened to his music because he technically got the win.
I'm having this crazy brain fart where I was like, I used to
I
make
was actually
the joke.
hoping they had combo music, but I couldn't find anything.
I was like, oh, why can't? Because I always say cue, American Made, cue American Made, and I was like, what is the song before? It's Real America. It's
Real
like,
America.
why could I not remember that? But
I mean, we only listened to it like 3 million times.
it's a good song. You know what's also
It
good?
is a great song.
I think American Made's pretty good too.
It is.
It's not as good, but it's kind of as close as you can get in quality.
If you like this episode or any of our other ones, please go out there and rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts at. If you have any questions, comments, concerns,
Recipes, food ideas, beverage ideas, anything that involves Philly, because I'm running out of fucking ideas.
Yeah, is there some kind of like weird Philly thing we don't know about?
I mean, we've already had the Philly taco, and
It's
that
like
was
I know.
weird.
I mean, perhaps you should look to see who's going to be on the show, and perhaps think, oh, maybe we could find a food item
Based on
on a wrestler that's on the show.
That's a good idea. That's not a bad
It's
idea.
another avenue of thought.
sure.
Possibly.
I was just thinking. I was like, well, there's Philadelphia cream cheese, and then there's
We already had that,
yeah, but I was
but it's not from Philly, actually.
yeah, exactly. But I was like, well, there's Italian cheesecake and New York cheesecake, and I know there's a difference. It's like, is there such thing as Philadelphia cheesecake?
I don't know.
Me neither. Who knows?
Who knows?
All cheesecake is Philadelphia cheesecake if you use
Probably melt
Philadelphia
it down
cream
and
cheese.
put it on a cheesesteak or something.
yeah.
A cheesecake cheese.
A cheesecake steak.
Yep.
Cheesesteak.
Cheesecake steak. Cheesecake cheesesteak.
Yeah, all
But
that.
if you have any of those things, you can email us at wrestlinghistoryx@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at wrestlinghistox. That's wrestling HISTOX. We'll talk to you next week.
Laters. Fuck you, Terry.